All the elements that we're going to add during this particular tutorial are all coming from the add icon over here on the left hand side. So when you click on that, you'll see there's a huge array of different types of elements you can add to your web page. Obviously the most common and basic ones are text and images. So we'll start off with these here and we'll work our way down through this list as quickly as we can. The first type of text it talks about is themed text. Now, themed text are the different types of text that you can add to this particular website, and they're the actual ones tied in with the font and so on. So you can see heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, heading 4, 5, and 6. They're your different sizes of headings, and then just normal paragraphs. So what we're going to do is we're going to add, first of all, a heading 1. If you're going to put headings in, it's very important that you add them in headings rather than adding them in normal text and making them bigger. Headings are identified by the search engine as being more important than just normal text. So it's going to add the heading like this, drop it in there, and I'm going to just say media page, because this is my media page. So really what I'm going to do in this particular page, I'm just going to add text to it and images and other elements to it. So really it's a kind of it's a one size fits all. It's a one-stop shop for all the information we're going to put in here. Okay, so you can change your headings as say 1 to 6 from in here. You can change your font. All right, and loads of different types of font. We're going to leave it on this one here because this is the font, the normal font that's being used already on this site, Lulo Clean. You can change the size, make it bigger or smaller, bold, italics, underlined. Change the color. If I look at this again, you're given the 25 colors and my colors in here, which are to do with this particular website and the theme that it uses. And then of course, if you want to go outside of that, you can add the colors along like this and just choose the one that you want. After that, you've got highlights, you've got a link, which will add links to the next bit of text that we add in here. And then you've got alignment, left, center, right, and justified. And then whether you want bullet points or numbered, okay. And then indentation and change text direction, stuff like that. So there's other things in here, effects and so on, which you can play around with. My advice would be, be careful with these because, some of them can look quite amateurish if they're not used properly. Okay. So I'm just going to move this in here. I'm going to center it across the top here by just doing this. Two ways of centering it here. The first way is if I come along here and I just center this here, it will of course only center it across the actual box that it's in. But if I grab the box and then move it across, like in PowerPoint, it will show me the center of the page. Okay, so I can do that. So if I just leave media page up there like that, what I'm going to do next is just add in a little bit of text. And so here's some we've prepared earlier. So I'm just going to use the text here. I'm just going to put it into a text box. So what we do here is we add text and we're just going to add a paragraph like this and just drop it in there. Now I'm just going to put my text in there like that. Okay, now that's just putting the text in there. Now obviously it looks okay up here, but when you start moving it over different parts of the background, it might make it quite difficult to use. So as I mentioned earlier on about contrast, what I could do here, I'll save it later on to show you exactly what works here. What I could do is something like this, which makes sure that my text is above that. But on different sized screens, this image might still be behind it. So be very careful. If I preview this and, as soon as I start scrolling like that, it is quite legible. But on a smaller screen, this might be behind it, might make it quite difficult to read. So with something like this, what we can do is we can actually put in a little box behind it. And I'll do that in a few minutes time. But for the moment here, I'm just going to just edit the text and have a look at these here. These are my different, if I put in highlight the background, it will do that, okay? Which means that my text will be legible, but it looks a bit silly there like that. So I'd be better off maybe putting a box in behind it, which I will in a few minutes, okay? I'm just going to leave that for the moment. And I'm also going to just highlight one part of this. The best walking and hiking trails in the world, okay? So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to link to a website for this. All right. And I already have the link in here, mountainviews.ie. And I'm just going to come in here, I'm going to highlight these 4 words: best walking. I'll highlight these ones here. Ireland has, I'm just going to highlight the words hiking trails, okay? And with this, I'm going to put in a link. Now, the beauty of this link is I can link to a page, which is any one of my pages within this site. I can link to an anchor, which I'll create anchor text a little bit later on. I can link back to the top of the page, to a Word document or a PDF or an Excel file, to an email address, to a phone number, or to a lightbox. Or I could take off the link altogether. What I'm actually going to link to is a web page. So I'm just going to paste in my web page, and it offers you 2 options here. Open it in a new window or in the current window. In the current window, it means it will replace my own site. Okay, so in this particular tab, it will replace my own site. If I click new window, it will open it up in a new browser, which quite often when you're dealing with external sites, information and pages that are not your own, you will go open in a new window. So I'm going to leave it on new window and click next. When I preview this and click hiking trails, it'll open mountainview.ie in a new window. Okay, so it's very simple to put in a link into a piece of text or an image or whatever. Okay, very simple to add. And I'll do the exact same thing with images. You just click on the link and it'll give you the exact same options we had a minute ago. Okay, so that's adding text. I will add boxes in a few minutes and put them in behind my my text there. But anyway, so adding text, you've lots of different types of text, as you can see here. All right. Adding images is very straightforward as well. Again, what I can do here when I add an image is I can actually add an image. Again, when I click my images, free Wix images, free Wix illustrations and stock images, they all bring you to the one place, it turns out. So I'm just going to click my image uploads. Now it brings me to the exact same page or dialog box that I had a few minutes ago when I was dealing with background images. And I can again go to media from Wix, Shutterstock and so on. These are my own images. So you can see site files. These are my own files that I put up there. So I'm going to just cut down here and I'm going to just put up this one image of somebody running. Okay, so I'm just going to put that in there. Okay, so with this in mind, I'm just going to throw that in there and put it to the right hand side of that. Okay, now again, you can see where I align my text along with everything there and so on. So that's just inserting an image. It's very, very simple. Now I can change the settings of my image so that when the image is clicked on, it will do different things. It'll open a link, it'll open a pop-up, or it can be magnified. Now you see the magnified one quite often on retail-based websites. So sometimes when you hover over something, it zooms in on it. So again, if I went, it can be magnified. It can be magnified back to its original size. So if I preview this, if you remember when I put this image in, first of all, I resized it. So if I magnify this, what I can do with this is I can magnify it in like this. So you can actually see different things and move around it. You see it quite often. Amazon do this quite often with products. So you can actually get a closer look at certain things. Okay. So with that, remember, the image that you put in is going to be larger. You've got to reduce the image down a little bit so to be able to magnify it a bit better. Other settings there. What's the image? At the moment, I can actually, it just puts in the name. So the name of the actual image. So I'm putting in Spink Glendalough. So if somebody should therefore search in Google for Google images of Spink Glendalough, my image will have a chance of showing up. Okay. Does the image have a tooltip? This is, I'm just going to put something slightly different in this so you'll see what it does. Okay, so Spink Walk Glendalough. Okay, when I preview this, when I hover over my image, it will say the tooltip will appear there. Okay, which is Spink Walk Glendalough. So it's good to put in alternative text, which is here, and tooltips, which is here. Really, really good to do these because that means that the search engine is getting more information every time we put something in there. Okay, so They're the simple settings. I can have a look at then changing the design of this image. So if I wanted to put a border on it or just play around with these things, so you'll notice that quite often these borders and backgrounds can really add to your image. At the moment, if I look at my image there and I preview it, it's actually quite, it looks kind of unfinished here, okay? Whereas if I just simply put a border on this and then go back and have a look at it again, you'll notice that hopefully it'll look a little bit more professional, a little bit more finished than it did when I was looking at that there. So something like that or something like this, you know, if I even preview this, you can see that there's actually a little bit of shadow on it, and it makes it look like it's slightly 3D, which is kind of cool. Okay, so there's lots of things you can do with these. Okay, so I'll go back in here, and these are the preset designs here. As you can see, this one here is kind of cool, because what I can do with this then is if I just leave that on it there, and then I can come along here and add a bit of text. Obviously that's spelled wrong for starters, but it's a bit long as well, so I can play around with the size of it, make it slightly smaller and so on. Okay. And of course you can center that text if you want to, or play around with it any way you want to. So again, you can add a little bit of detail and make it look an awful lot nicer by doing these kind of things. Okay, so I'm going to go back here and have a look at the next thing I'm going to add here. So images, very straightforward, nothing new there. You can add your own images like we did with the background. You can use Wix images and so on. So buttons are the next one up here. And while some of these look a little bit basic, they're actually a very good call to action on websites. So, you know, if I turn around here and say, like, you know, sale or button, I can add, you know, send or try me or any of these, donate or join us or whatever. I can actually add some interaction to it. So if I drop it in here, for instance, it will only appear on this page. But if I move it above that bar, it'll appear on every page. So, you know, when you're dealing with something like this, it's very simple and straightforward. We can put in a link that it will do something or go somewhere, either in my own site or somewhere, you know, within on the web or wherever. Okay. So next one up is adding galleries. Now these are exactly the same as adding images, but you can add a number of them, and it can be a little bit more interactive, and you can do really nice things with this. So I'm just going to add this here slider here, for instance, or something like that. But let's add this one here. Just drag it and drop it in there for a second. Okay. Now this will allow me to add more than one image to my slider, and therefore I can you know, play around with these things. So if I just double click on that, it'll bring me in here. At the moment it has 10 images in there, so I'm just going to get rid of these and add my own. That's exactly what I'm going to do. And I'm not going to add that many because I'm going to add a little bit of detail to each one of them and so on. So I'm going to add images here. And again, I'm going to my own ones here. So if I come along here and say Spink, and I say Glendalough Upper Lake, and I say Glendalough Walk, and also I put in this one here, okay, and just add this to my gallery. So I've added 4 images. Now the next thing I'm going to do is, if I click on my first image, it'll tell me Spink Web is the title and the description. So I can add a title, a description, and a link to every single one of my images. So if I had 4 walks that I was highlighting this week as being my walks of the week, I could actually have another page within my site that when I click on the image of the walk, it'll bring me to a more in-depth description of the hike and maybe directions and all the rest of these things. So I could have one for each of these. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change a few of these here. So okay, and I'm going to put in, I'm just going to put in desk 1 here. Now this is ridiculous, but I just want to see where it appears. Okay. Glendalough Upper Lake, fine. Glendalough Walk. These are all Glendalough so far. The last one isn't obviously, but Glendalough. That's a spink as well. And finally, this one here. I'm just going to leave tester in here for that, and I'm going to put in description 4 for this one here, just to show you where these appear in a few minutes, okay? And done. All right. Now, I'm just going to preview this. I'm going to have a look at, when I hover over these, it'll show me the actual spink walk and the description, okay? And obviously, Glendalough Walk, spink walk, all right? And finally, tester. Now, so be consistent with what you put in. That's really what I wanted to show in here. With your descriptions, with your titles for your images and so on, okay? So if I want to, I can change the order of these, okay, by just dragging and dropping them in wherever I want them, okay? And I can look at the settings here. So I can add a new theme or whatever, okay? So again, what I'm going to do with this one here is I'm going to take the description out of these two. So be consistent. Obviously, tester is not a good name for that, but anyway, you get the idea. And then done. So that is a simple slider. There are lots of other ones in here. Lots of some really cool ones, it turns out, that will allow you to play around with different things. Okay, and you know, it's just a case of finding which one of these you want to use and so on. So different galleries work in different ways. All right, so some of them are very, very interactive. Some of them not so much, okay? But you can see when you hover over these, it'll show certain images. When you click on them, it'll go full screen and so on, okay? Now, again, this one can look a little bit on the unfinished side. So with this, we can turn around here and we can customize the design. So with this one here, just say I wanted to have borders on it. I can turn around and say, listen, I want a border style, you know, of a certain width and a certain size, okay? And you start to see this now. Obviously, I'm going to go mad on this, and you know, so you can see what you're trying to do there. So it'll sometimes take the unfinished look off it, okay? So you can actually have, you know, little corners, round corners. You can have shadow on them and so on, okay? So play around with those so it makes it look a little bit nicer, okay? So it takes the unfinished look off it. Next thing I'm going to add here are decorative lines and so on. Now again, you might think that some of these are a little bit basic, a little bit like clip art and so on. Some of them are, you're right, but some of these themed lines can be very good when you're trying to break text. And you'll see what I'll do this in a few minutes with something, just to show you exactly how this works. Interactive, again, this will allow you to put in the full width slideshow. You quite often see these at the top of websites to display different things. They work in the very same way that you're dealing with the images, except that they're an actual area rather than an image, but they work in the same way. And then boxes. I'm just going to add a box here and you'll see exactly what the box will do. So I'm going to add the box here like this. All right. Now this looks like nothing at the moment. Just bear with me a second. I'm going to put it behind my text like this. It's getting a bit cluttered up here. But anyway, around my text, I should say. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send them backwards. Now, it's hard to see it's moving back at the moment, but it actually is moving backwards. Now, next thing I'm going to do is change the design of this, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just change it to this like this, okay? So something like that, or something like this. All right? Just putting in a white box at the moment, all right? And you see my text goes on top of it. Right, that can look very well. At the moment, it's looking a little bit basic. So just bear with me a second till I play around with this, okay? So again, I can customize this or I can shape it in certain ways, okay? So just say I wanted to round my edges like that and I want to customize the design. So the first thing I'm going to go for is the color. I'm going to go away from the blue. Obviously, that's not great. I'm going to go to the white. And then I'm going to make it opaque. Now what you see from this is difficult to see exactly what's going on here. I'm going to move two of them down a little bit here. But as you can see, because I'm making it opaque, you can see my background behind it, okay, or through it, okay. So I'm making it a little bit opaque. It's a little bit too opaque there, as it turns out, because of the fact that my background would still interfere with my text because there's not enough contrast there. I'm going to go back here and just bring it back up a little bit, okay. Border, I'm going to put a border on this. Got something like that. Now, as you can see, the good thing about that is you can have your image behind it. You can play around with it. So I'm going to move this down here slightly so it's halfway along there. So you see how this works. So, like, don't dismiss some of these things. Some of these things are very simple, but they work very, very well. Okay, a little bit of border on is always good because you don't want your text running right up to the edge or whatever. You know, and there's lots of different colors and different options and different shapes and sizes and so on. Strips. Now, a strip is exactly what we have on our homepage. I'm just going to go to my homepage for a second. And what you see with the strip is something that looks like this. So it actually is a break in the page. This here is a strip. And you can add content to that, and then we can add an anchor, which is what's here, to make sure that it appears and people can move to it and so on. So strips are you know, they're becoming more common with lots of websites. So I'm going to go back to my media page. I'm just going to start adding other different things. Strips are very simple to add and can be very useful for dividing your content and allowing people to see separation in your content, which is always useful. Lists and grids are exactly that. So you can put in, if you have maybe 3 or 4 people working for you, you can put in something like that. Or if you have 4 products that you want to show, you can put something like that, and so on. So lists and grids are nice, and you can play around with those. Videos and music, very simple to add some video to this. So I'm just going to add a YouTube video to this. I'm just going to drag it down. Let it go. Obviously things are getting cluttered here, but you get the idea. I'm just making space. I move down along here. And obviously, every time you add, you know, a link to social media or a link to video or a link to Google Maps, it'll always bring you to Wix's social media, to Wix's video, to Wix's Google Maps, etc. So what I'm going to do is going to link to YouTube video here, this one here, and change video. That's all I'm going to do here, and then I can play around with it if I want to, but change the video. In here and just change your video. And what I'm after linking to is I grabbed a YouTube video of best beginning hiking trails in Ireland. Okay, so again, if I preview this, you can press play and off the video will go.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
All right. So you can see what's happening there. I haven't yet saved this, and there's you know, I just wanted to show you the importance of saving it in the one go in a couple of minutes. So again, any of these, because YouTube's in here, we can actually edit it and look at the design. You can add, again, fills and borders and so on. Another nice way of doing something like this would be to add one of these boxes that we talked about a couple of minutes ago. So I'm going to go back to boxes here, and I'm going to add a box, something like this. You can see how this works. Okay, so I'll just drop that in there like that, and then I can put it literally just here like this around that. Nudging it using the arrow keys there, so it's very simple to move around like that. Now, when I look at this, preview this, you know, you can see it here. It gives it more of a finished look, all right? So it gives it more of a 3D and a finished look as well. So, you know, you can put a border behind it. You know, you can see on the right-hand side that I've left a slight gap there, which isn't great. But anyway, So I'm going to come back here and just nudge that slightly that way. And of course I can design that and change the size of my borders and make them bigger and so on if I want to. Okay, so my border is 6, so I can make it bigger and bigger, you know, thicker if I wanted to. And I preview it again, and you can see now the line is gone, but as well as that, my border looks quite nice around there. Of course I could put a different color border on it, but that's, you know, it kind of gives it a more finished look than just plonking your video in there like that. Okay, so again, there's very nice little tips and tricks that you can do with these. Okay, strips, we've looked at those. Lists, we've looked at those. Videos, yeah. Menus. Now menus, I know I'm going through this fairly quick, but I think it is fairly intuitive. You can add, you can see on top here that they have their own menu, but I can add another menu to it if I want, or add a theme menu, change it. Okay, I can add a second one, or I can change the one that's there to something else. So if you're not happy with the one that's here, you can just change it. Now, of course, it will link back to your pages, and it will show what needs to be on your menu from what you've put into your pages up here. Social links. Now, in this particular site, I have a login bar up here, and I'm just going to close this down for a second so you can see it. And I've got my social links down here. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go into this social bar here to see what's going on. And I'm going to double click it. Now, obviously here I've got social links, and I can of course change them. Just say I don't have Instagram, I can get rid of that. Okay. If I had something else like, you know, Google Plus, I can go in there. It'll bring me to my icons here, as you can see. Okay. So if I have another icon that I want to use, I can just add it to this list as well, or I can add my own ones. Okay. If I find them online somewhere that I like, I can add my own one. So you can see there's a whole load of them here, and there's way more. Just keep scrolling down, you can see all the big long list of all the different icons. Okay, and they have different versions of them. For instance, some of them will be black backgrounds. This one has a gray background with black icons, so that's what I'm looking for here. So social icons, I'm searching for it with a black in it, so it's giving me all these ones with black in it, but you'll see in a second. So I've got grey with black icons, so a darker grey than that one, I think. You get the idea. You scroll down till you find the one that you want. Okay, I'm going to add one here. I know it's not the right color, but just to speed things up a little bit here, I'm looking for. I'll go up here to. They're not the right color, as I said, but just say I want to add Pinterest here. It'll add, just simply add it to my list here. Okay, there we go. And now I know it's not the right color, but I find the one that is the right color and add it here. And what you need to do here is Facebook, black Facebook icon, and you can see here black YouTube icon. It has a name on. So maybe if I just go back here again, add icon, and search by black Pinterest icon, and it'll show me Pinterest here. So I'm looking for one which is darker grey. Anyway, you get the idea. I could be here all day looking, but anyway. And not the right color, but you get the idea. Okay. So what you need to do, this is very important, is at the moment the link will bring you to Wix's Facebook, Wix's YouTube, Wix's Twitter, Wix's Pinterest. You've got to add your own. Okay, you've got to add your own. In other words, like delete the one that's there and copy and paste in your own Facebook link. Okay, so and the same with YouTube, and the same with all the rest of them. So if I come along here, for instance, and this is my YouTube channel here, and just click done here for a second, and then I go preview. You can obviously, the Pinterest one isn't fitting at all, but anyway, I click on that. It'll bring me to my YouTube channel, okay, and with all my YouTube videos and so on, okay. So it's having a good think about that. It'll bring me in here and show me all the different YouTube videos that I've got there. So I put in my own specific one, rather than, obviously we don't want people linking to Wix when you're dealing with Wix and so on, okay. So it's very simple to add your own social icons. Of course, if you see some online that you like, you know, just say you've got three, just say you've got Facebook, you've got Twitter, and you have an app, well then you put in your three little icons for those and you link to your own specific ones, okay. So very straightforward. The social links are there, and then we'll move on to contact forms, okay. And contact forms are, you know, little forms such as contact us, but there's also ones such as donations, feedback, payments, price quotes. There's loads of them. So you can actually add these, and you'll find out later on in the App Store part of this, it's free as well, you can add your own forms and customize them any way you want to. But here's one I've added already, and I'm just going to double click on that, and you can see if I go into form settings, sorry, let's go into form settings here. It's slow to react here. Form settings. Let's have a good think about it here. Okay, settings here, and contact form, email notification. So what I can do is, you can see it's already got my old email address in here, so I can add a new email address if I want to. It can send it to more than one email address when this form is completed. It'll show you here that the enter email address is required, as you can see the little asterisk there. Submit message. So once you've done that, you can put in a message saying thanks very much for, you know, much appreciated, you know. So you can actually go down through them and add other fields, as you can see here. You can change the layout, you can change the design. So again, if I want to change the design of this, I can just simply click on one that I think I might like, or might fit my design or my website layout. Okay, that one obviously doesn't, but anyway, the one that fits it probably is the one that's there, it probably is the best. But anyway, you get the idea. You can play around with different ones and choose the one that suits your needs. Okay, so I'm just going to undo this, because I think the one that was there first is probably the best one anyway. So let's have a good think about this as well. Okay, right, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually just save my website at the moment, and then I'll move on and I'll finish the last bit of this in the next tutorial. So I'm just going to go save. All right, so saving your page. All right, for starters here, it'll save it to your login, which mine is patrickhorn.wixsite.com, and it'll save it to my site. Now we can edit that, and I can change that to anything I want to. Now it can only allow it to change it if it's available. Okay, so remember, in my case here, I'm going to call mine Walk With Me 2021. Okay, I click, and it is available. So now it's done. So that's my actual address. I can change that anytime I want to, as long as the name is available. I can keep changing it if I want to. So I just go done. All right, now every time I save this from now on, it will ask me, saving your changes, okay, and it'll ask me, am I happy enough with that? And I am. So if I want to publish it, that's the next thing. All right, so it's going to save this to, you know, publish it. It's going to put it up there for me. Now, what's the difference between saving and publishing? Saving means that I'm saving it to my account, but when I publish it, it puts it up on that particular web address where anybody can access it. Once I've published it, I can save it as many times as I want to after that, and nothing changes on the publish site until I publish it the next time. So if I'm working on a page and I don't want to publish it yet, I can actually work away. I can hide my page if I want to, but I can work away. And as long as I keep saving it, it keeps saving. But as long as I don't publish it, it doesn't go up and change what's online. So, right, that's adding quite a few of these. I'll come back and add a few more in a few minutes in the next tutorial. But and then finish up on maybe apps and so on as well.